Okay, good morning, everybody, and welcome to LEA.Labs first session. Actually, it's the second because we did one last night in Asia. So this is the second session that we're doing. For those of you that aren't familiar with LEA, LEA stands for Leadership Effectiveness Accelerator. This is a software platform, but it has embedded AI agents in it. And this lab is intended to help leadership and talent professionals be inspired and feel confident in the use of AI talent agents in their work. And so that's what the topic is today is about using AI talent agents for high impact mentorship. That we have a whole slew of other topics I'll try to get your inputs on for the rest of the year. For today, there's three things we're going to do. I'm going to frame up the conversation. I'm going to hand it over to Stacey. She's going to share with you some experiences that she's had using these AI talent agents in her work. I'm super excited about Stacey. Stacey's like an amazing nurse and a leader. She has decades of experience leading nurses, and she put her hand up to head up leadership development with for the nursing population in her workplace. And so I know many people that are here and listening are organization psychologists, and so so seldom can we say, "Yeah, the work I do saves lives." But I think that Stacey can say that, and so I think the fact that this technology is helping her build nurse leadership is very exciting. And then I'm going to go in and do a demo. Uh, if we have time, if we get sucked in and excited about what Stacey's talking about and we take up more time, um, I'm not too worried because if anyone's ever been into like ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, Grok, whatever, you know the interface. But it's what it does under the interface that's so significant about our AI talent agents. Okay, that's the plan. I want to start not with technology, but with mentorship, because that's really the problem we're trying to solve. We want to help make mentorship more impactful. Or I should say, this is just one of the areas that Leah works, but I think that the one of the problems that often organizations face is there's not enough support, whether we call it a mentor or there maybe it's a peer mentor or an apprenticeship guide or a friend. There, it's very difficult to have enough of that for people. And it tends to be seen as a scarce resource. In fact, if you have a formal mentorship program, it's usually with hypos or senior leaders. There tends to be very little, if any, measurement that's done in mentorship. So we actually seldom know if it's helping individuals, how it's helping them. Um, it tends to be very reliant on the quality of the relationship between the mentor and the mentee. I will say, I think the quality of the relationship is always going to matter, but it's beyond that. It's like some mentors really don't know what to do. They don't know how to support the person in the best way. So there tends to be a lot of reliance on just that one individual to make it a great thing. And there's a lot of manual coordination. Stacy, when we did this first started this work, looked at me and said, "Oh my gosh, I've been wanting to do mentorship for years, and this just overcame all my barriers." And I know it's because she's like super busy, and so the amount of work done is huge to actually coordinate. And this is again form like informal mentorship or like in the healthcare system, it could be a preceptorship, could be any kind of a relationship where they're humans helping other humans. So we're trying to create an abundant resource that's still human led, that has good data. It's good and it's personalized because that's what sort of best practice tends to be. We have a program and there's structure around it and we're giving people guides, but none of that's really personalized except for what the mentor does to personalize it. And then it's scalable. Okay, so that's kind of I hope that today you come away thinking, well, that's kind of cool. I can see how this technology can help us to improve the impact of mentorship and other helping relationships in organizations. The only other thing I want to do before I hand over to Stacy is just give you a preview of how Leah's AI talent agents help mentorship. One of the key defining features of our agents is that they're ingesting individual and team assessment data, and they're trained by PhD level IO psychologists. And so That's different from a chat GPT or any other kind of generative AI tool. And that is they're relying on assessment data and they are trained. So we've actually been training our agents a little bit about healthcare and about nursing and how that context changes. And we can do that for any kind of industry or organization. So the kinds of things it does is it can match. So we built an algorithm that's based on research on kind of fix an effective relationship. Turns out there's not a lot, but there's a couple of factors where if people aren't too different, then it helps. And so we have that, and we have some creative matching, like you can say, make the pairs be different from one another or match their communication style. So there's things like that. Um, the AI can build personalized mentor briefings. It can write letters to, this isn't just like one letter, it can do like hundreds of personalized letters or briefings or create like a guide that for the mentor. Okay, this is a 8-month program. You're going to meet monthly. Here's some tips for you to show up and really have positive impact. There's mentee development. The AI can build draft a development plan, which the mentor can review and help to finalize with the individual. For anyone that's ever done work in organizations knows how hard it is for people to set goals. And this agent can help. So I'm super happy about that. That's been this sort of the source of angst for so many people for so many years. It can provide conversation support, like, hey, you're going to show up to a meeting. What are some things you might think about? What are some reflection questions? What are some topics to cover? It can build little knowledge bits. It could be integrated into learning content. Right now, it does. It's not. Um, but it's just making life easier for the people that have this relationship. Now, the agent, this isn't software that just says, hey, you got a meeting today, show up. Okay, put your notes in. Have you done it? It's really enabling a human. And in this case, it's someone like Stacey or it's someone like Anna or Seth, right? It's like someone that is, well, you guys would probably be helping someone that's doing this. And so these are people that are busy. They are in this field of like human development, leadership development, talent management, et cetera. And that human plays a really important role. Like they review outputs and say, it's good enough. Or, yeah, I don't like that. And then they have to go back to the AI and say, I don't like that. Do this, make it better. They have to give instructions through prompts, and then they provide feedback along the way. And that helps our engineers to improve the AI agent. So I think that's a really important thing that this is all about humans and helping humans be more impactful. This isn't just about, let's all love the agents and let them loose on people. Okay, and I also want you to be very clear. Our platform is not using AI for assessment. We use human algorithms based on old-fashioned research to build that. I think that's really important. But the role of the AI is then helping people use the data to do good. All right, that's my framing up of this topic around mentorship and about how the agents can help solve some of these problems with mentorship. What I'm going to do is switch gears and I'm going to hand over to Stacey. So Stacy, you're co-host. You want to, I think I'm going to stop sharing and you start sharing.
Okay, sounds
Okay,
good.
so I'm going to do that. Maybe just give us a word of intro to yourself and then you can,
All right.
yeah.
Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Stacey Wattier. I am a nursing director at the University of Kansas Health System in Kansas City, Kansas. We are literally right on the state line, so you can walk across the street and eat lunch in Missouri if you want. But we are on the Kansas side of the state line, which is very important if you live in Kansas City to know the difference between those two things. So I am so excited to talk to you today. I think often about meeting Allison and how much working with these tools has really really changed for the better. Some of the work that I was doing with nursing leadership professional development. So I'm excited to share with you all a little bit about what that has looked like for me and my team and the folks that I support. Just a little bit about our health system. You can see this is kind of who we are in a lot of numbers. We're a pretty big health system in Kansas City, the biggest um, organization we have. When I started here in 2003 as a nurse's aide. I graduated in nursing school in 2005 and worked here as well. When I first started, we were one building with 5 floors, and that's it at this main campus. Now we have 3 towers alone at our main campus. We have over 7,000 nurses just on this campus alone, and we have recently acquired another hospital in Olathe, Kansas, and then in Liberty, Missouri as well. So that's like 20 years of time. We've grown so much. And I think we obviously do a number of things really well to have been able to achieve that. We have great leadership here. But I think one of the things that really, I don't know, maybe put me in the position to have the role that I have is we saw this lack of formal leadership development among our nursing teams. And we've grown so much that we're constantly hiring nurse managers, we're hiring unit coordinators who are kind of like assistant nurse manager roles, supervisors. And we didn't really have any formal leadership development pathways for those folks. And so about 3 years ago, my boss, who's the associate chief nursing officer here, decided to put this director role into place. And I applied and was able to get the job, brand new job. So I constantly tell people it's like I sit in my office and just think of ideas, and then I have to run them by a million other people because I don't know if my ideas are actually practical out in the real world. So it's like I'm an N of one right now. I'm thinking that might change in the future just because I've been able to put in place some programs that I think will last in their longevity. And this is one of them that I'll talk about with you all today. So the project that I started to work on was a formal nurse manager transition to practice or transition to leadership type of program. So we do this thing that a lot of organizations do where somebody is maybe a really good bedside nurse and we say, oh gosh, well, they could be the manager of this unit. And then we put them in a management position and maybe they were a really, really wonderful bedside nurse, but managing people is not a skill that they really have or have ever really had a chance to develop. So, and we know that the nurse manager role is super, super important in patient outcomes, quality patient care, of course, employee satisfaction, which also correlates to quality patient care as well. There's lots and lots of studies out there that say all of those things. And complexity in healthcare has, of course, increased over time as well. And we have a lot of brand new nurse managers. This statistic on the screen is from AONL, which is the American Organization of Nursing Leadership. They put out this trends and innovations in nurse manager retention kind of report last year, a couple years ago now, I guess. This is true at our place too, that probably over half of our nurse managers are less than 3.5 years of experience, which I think back to when I was a nurse manager. I was a nurse manager for 11 years. And I remember one day at like year 4.5 coming into work and thinking, I think I really can probably do this job. And it took me 4.5 years. So that was part of the problem that I was seeking to solve with putting this program in place is how do we make nurse managers feel competent and confident quicker, and by putting some formal planning in place around them, some formal support. So here's just some evidence of transition to practice programs. I did a lot of evidence-based practice review to see what was already out there about nurse manager programs. There's a lot out there. There wasn't a lot out there about a multimodal really program that addressed not only a class environment, but pulled in a mentorship and pulled in some other things that I'll talk about here in a second. So I was like, well, let's just throw everything out there and say, if we set our sights really high and put in this really complex program, comprehensive, I guess is a better way to say that than complex, comprehensive program, can we really show that we are supporting and improving the satisfaction of our leaders, increase employee retention, increase manager retention, and then increase quality care as well. So that's kind of what we're seeking to do here. So the aims of the program, so NMTTP is Nurse Manager Transition to Practice, was to really speed up that learning curve, like I spoke about, for new nurse managers so that they would feel competent faster and not have this like epiphany, 4 years in that, oh my gosh, I think I can do it today. And then promote retention. It's a high turnover position. We don't have as high of turnover here at our organization as some other places. And I think that's for a number of reasons. I think we have a lot of supportive pieces in place for our teams. So managing our teams is maybe a little bit less complex than some places might be. We compensate and support our nurse managers really well here. So we have really good job satisfaction, but how are we supporting them in leader development was really what we want to talk about. So here's a little bit about the program, and then I'll get into how I'm using LEA and some of the tools for the mentorship piece. So my program's really 4 parts. In-person instruction. We created in-person instruction. The agendas were created using AONL, American Organization of Nursing Leadership. They have a list of nurse manager competencies that they have done a lot of research to say, okay, there's this list of competencies that we would want all nurse managers to have to be successful. It's a really long list. There's probably over 100 competencies. It's, kind of big categories, subcategories, and then smaller competencies. I pulled out about 60 of those that I said, okay, these would really be what I would expect newer nurse managers within like their first year to at least be working towards developing and have some experience in. So that's how our agendas were made for our in-person instructions. We're also using some learning modules. We actually switched. We're not using LinkedIn Learn. I forgot to change this slide. We're using some Lippincott. It's we can go through different journal articles and things. So we're doing some journaling and journal article review with our groups as kind of homework and pre-work for classes. We're doing simulation training, which we only were able to find one article that talked about using leadership simulation for this level of nursing. And it was actually in a master's degree leadership program. So we're really excited about implementing a leadership simulation scenario. Our participants took Crucial Conversations last month, actually, the full 2-day course. And then we're actually doing our simulations next week based on Crucial Conversations skills. So we're excited to evaluate that piece because that's pretty new too. The biggest piece, and actually probably the one that I'm really, really super excited about, is the mentorship program. So as you can see in the rest of these, it's kind of the same no matter where this nurse manager is. They're going to get the same in-person instruction, learning modules, simulation training, Crucial Conversations. But our nurse managers manage lots of different areas. I have inpatient nurse managers, ambulatory or outpatient nurse managers, and then perioperative or procedural nurse managers. The roles that they play are all very different. They have different unit sizes. They manage different times. Like our inpatient nurse managers are 24/7. So they have accountability all day, every day, around the clock. And so there's just different levels of expectations and resources around these different managers. So part of this program was really figuring out how do we also personalize this experience to the nurse managers who are going to be participating, knowing that in the rest of these, the top 3, program modalities here are going to be the same across the board. Mentorship was really our goal to personalize this per individual. And as Allison said earlier, I have been really wanting to do a mentorship program for years. Even when I was a nurse manager, I was in charge of a council that we were trying to do this, and it was just too complex and too hard. We couldn't figure out the pairing. We couldn't really even figure out the resources because this was nobody's full-time job either. So we're trying to do this in tandem with other roles. So I was very excited to, meet Allison and start using these tools, particularly the AI support that was provided with LEA in enhancing our mentorship piece of our program. So our mentorship started at month 2 of our program and continues really only for 10 months. I don't know if we'll change that in the future, but our the rationale for that timeline for this was so that we could do some pre and post assessments within about a year's time frame. We had each mentor and mentee complete the growth leader assessment, and each pairing met with me. I took the training to be able to talk with folks about their GLA. So each pairing met with me. We went over each mentee's assessment. And then in the background, prior to those meetings, I had used LEA to help look at strengths for those pairings and then goals for focus of those pairings. One thing I actually forgot about in the slides, which I'm glad Allison mentioned earlier, was we used LEA to help create those pairs. So we used communication profile as like the starting point. We wanted similar communication profiles. So LEA actually helped make those mentorship pairs. But we had 3 pairs that had already been created. They were already in a mentorship. No, actually 4 pairs that were already in a mentorship relationship before the program that was going to continue due to this program. So I'm actually really kind of excited to evaluate those 4 pairings plus our other 21 pairings. So we have 25 participants total in the long term to see, oh, okay, like we did a pretty good job with these pairings, and this communication, kind of looking at communication profiles, was a strength for us. So we'll evaluate that at the end of the mentorship for sure. So why was LEA so important to us? We really wanted our program to support the individual strengths and development needs of people, so we put the mentorship in place for that reason. We identified the need for the leadership assessment. We had already, before even talking to Allison, I'd already been kind of kicking that idea around a little bit of like, how will we give some sort of assessment to these leaders so they can have an understanding of where they are and where they maybe need to be over time. And after I met Allison and saw the organization solution products, that was like, oh my gosh, this is perfect. This is exactly what I was looking for, even without knowing exactly what I was looking for. So I felt very grateful for that. And then LEA really has enhanced our mentorship, I believe, wholeheartedly, even without the data that we'll get at the very end of our program. I have received a lot of anecdotal, remarks that have from mentors and mentees about the tools that we have created using LEA and how helpful they've been in like driving this mentorship. Because Allison's right, like the mentors, if I was asked to be a mentor right now, I think I'd probably do a pretty good job of it, but it would take me quite a while to figure out, especially if I didn't know the individual well, which these folks don't necessarily know each other well. They're from all over a really big organization. If I didn't know them well, it would take me a little while to get to know them, probably figure out strengths and opportunities, help them create goals based on those strengths and opportunities. So where we have found LEA to be very, very helpful is creation of some of these tools to help really jumpstart that mentorship and get us going quicker. I was worried about this 10-month time frame, but I actually feel like LEA has helped us move faster through mentorship than if we just started this from scratch or without this thing. So how I have used LEA is I really had to sit and think, okay, like what do I want to get out of this? And how would I develop prompts to get LEA to give me what I needed each time? What I found myself doing was getting very distracted, and I told Allison this, by LEA telling me, oh, well, can I create this document for you, this amazing thing? And I'm like, oh, I would love that, LEA. And then pretty soon I would have like a 500-page binder of things that nobody's going to read. It's not going to be helpful. So I had to really like, no, stop telling me more things that might be great. Although that tool was very helpful as I was first putting in prompts and trying to figure out what I needed, because there was some really helpful things that LEA would kind of drive me towards in creating exactly what we ended up using. Once I had kind of figured out, okay, this is what I want to be able to give to the mentors and the mentees, I was able to use LEA to create some template types that LEA now knows. So when I go back in there, I just have to have the people that I'm adding and then that template type name, and it will spit out the same thing for those other people using their GLAs, which has been really, really helpful. I don't have to go back and try to remember prompts and all these things. I have a good little template list. So this is the template list that I came up with and what we really ended up utilizing for our mentors and mentees. So we created a mentoring goals and 10-month plan. This document's actually really cool. I think I have it a couple slides from now, just an example of what it looks like. It was really cool to me anyway, because basically what it did was give goals for the mentee to focus on, 4 goals, why from the GLA, you'll see that on the next page, and then what success looks like at 10 months. But it also created kind of a 10-month planner for the mentor to use as far as, okay, on month 1, if these are the goals that your mentee is going to do on month 1, here's really what you should be focusing on. On month 2, here's what you should be focusing on. So I actually had a mentor meet with me yesterday because she has her first meeting with her mentee tomorrow, her first, mentorship meeting. They've already met, but to discuss. And she was like, okay, like walk me through, like, I'm a little bit nervous about being a mentor. Like, what exactly do I need to do? And I said, well, let's get out the mentoring plan that was created for you, and let's walk through that and see if you feel more comfortable after that. So we walked step by step through, here's what this mentor guide kind of threw out for you on month 1. This is what you should be talking about tomorrow. And it really kind of gave a really great agenda to drive conversation, good questions to ask, good topics of conversation to focus on goal number 1 for them for this first meeting, then moving on to goal number 2. And it's just a really great document, especially if you're a little bit nervous about being a mentor and don't quite know what this is going to look like. And you kind of feel
Hey,
like this,
Stacey,
yeah,
I want to ask you a question. It's super
yeah.
interesting. In that interaction, do you think that having the guide generated by AI versus you made it more or less credible and easy to accept? Like
Um,
because you told them, right? This is this agent, right? How did they
yeah,
react
yeah.
to that?
So I was very upfront of like, we are using this tool to create these documents. So everybody knows that this came from an AI agent, mentors, mentees, all the folks. Um, I would say that responses to that have been overwhelmingly positive. We have not really adopted AI in much of any of our organization that I know of. There's some conversations about adopting AI on the clinical side to help with documentation, some documentation things, but there's been a little hesitancy about that. But I would say the use of AI for this project has been overwhelmingly positive.
Mm,
I think that I think people find me to be a pretty credible leader. So if I just gave that to them, they would probably be like, okay, she knows what she's talking about. I don't think that saying AI created this took away from their trust
mm,
of the document,
mm.
really. We tried
Yeah.
to do a really good job of explaining all the things you explained so well, Allison, which is like it's an AI agent. Here's what we do to make it safe. Here's how it is different from ChatGPT and all the
Mm,
things I've learned since working with you. So I think that their trust in this plan they're actually really just excited to see if it works, right?
mm.
So, and which we all kind of are. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, for sure.
Um, so then I also created a mentor watchouts 1-pager, which is basically for the mentors to say, okay, given your GLA results and your mentees GLA results, here's how you could potentially work really well together. Here's some things you might need to know about your mentee to help you work better with them. So for example, one of them said something like, okay, you are very quick to make decisions, but your mentee really likes to talk step by step through the process before they get to that decision maker. And you could see that in their GLAs too. Like you could see where that kind of fell with the mentees versus this mentor. And then I created the same document kind of in reverse for this, how to get the most from mentoring. This document's for the mentee, kind of the flip side of that, of like, okay, you're working with this mentor, here's what to know about them. And then of course, there's a leader strength and opportunity snapshot that I just ran to help coach through the GLA. This one is great. I didn't give this out to either of the mentor or the mentee, just because I had already given them a lot of documents and trying to save them from a 500-page binder. Here's just an example of one of the goals that was created for one of my mentees from Leah. So, what I really enjoyed about, or really liked about this that I don't think I could have done is, when I first sat down to do this, I thought, okay, I'm going to look at this first GLA and try to figure out what goals I would have given this person based on this and see what Leah does. Um, I got it pretty much the same. I didn't articulate it quite as well, but the one thing that I didn't do well was include the strengths that would add to why this goal would be easier or achievable for them, right? So you can see this person, their goal was to grow skills and confidence in developing and empowering others, talks about why, so gives kind of the opportunities from the GLA, but then moves that down to like, okay, she has strong tenacity scores and her ability to align stakeholders is really strong. So this should be something that might be a little bit easier for her to work towards in this shorter time frame of 10 months. And then it kind of gave us what success looks like in 10 months. So here's what we kind of would expect to see at month 10 with your mentor if you're successful in achieving this goal. Here's that document that talks through the 10-month mentoring journey. So kind of gives month 1, here's what you should really focus on. Here's some example output from month 1. So in month 1, you should really be finalizing your mentoring goals, talking about Bobby's workflow. In the middle of this document, it also kind of gives some examples of agendas or how to kind of set your meeting here, spend 5 to 10 minutes here, 10 to 15 minutes here, which I think, again, is really helpful in guiding those mentors who are newer to that kind of role. So you can see here, it walks through goals 1 through 4 and how to kind of structure those in a 10-month mentorship to make them achievable, which this document has been received overwhelmingly well as a helpful tool for the mentors in setting up their mentees for success. So I would say, again, we are not at the end of our program yet. We've had lots of great feedback about the tools and about the process, about the GLA and use of this. So I'm really excited. I think we'll have good outcomes from this. But our goals here was to accelerate that goal development, which we've seen clear visibility into mentor and mentee strengths. We use the GLA to do that and Leah a bit too. We created some communication tools that can help the mentors and mentees in their mentoring conversations, which I think has been very, very helpful. And that structured timeline has been something that has been received very well too, to help them get to those goals. So next steps, we'll evaluate the goals from the mentor and mentee's perspective. So here, probably towards the end of March, I'll be sending kind of a survey to the mentors to say, did you use the goals that were created by Leah? Did you change the goals? Why not? And ask some of those questions just so we can kind of evaluate the tool. Again, I've heard nothing but great things so far. So I anticipate I'll probably get some good feedback back on that and, maybe some opportunities as well, which we'll take into consideration and talk about. And then we recently got accepted by AONL for a $10,000 grant for this program, which was really exciting. So we'll use that for some of the other plans we had for our program, and we'll be able to send one person to a conference as well. We'll do a post-study survey immediately after our last class, which is in April, but then we'll do a mentorship post-study survey in probably end of October, beginning of November, once those mentorships are completed. And then we'll also do focus groups for the program and then for the mentorship as well. So that's how we're going to kind of gather our data at the end of the program. All right. So I have been so excited to work with Allison. She probably has my email on speed dial because I am asking questions a lot and she's always very willing to help answer them and provide ideas. I definitely do not have the same background as her, but it's been really great to work together and learn a little bit about what she does. I know she loves to hear about what we do here too, and has been very, very supportive of the program. So I'm always happy to answer any questions now, or here's my email if you have any questions.
Let me just invite you all to ask questions, and then let's just see where that takes us. If we have time, I can go in and physically show you these things, but you we'll just see how we want to use the time. I always like to think of Leah, like I'll just say, it's like having an IO psychologist in your pocket, right? And
Yeah.
so I love listening to Stacey tell her story because you think about she's doing this stuff with these 20 pairs. If she had it, she might need like two people supporting her to do that.
Oh,
And so
easily.
this makes it possible for her to scale this one kind of solution. So that makes me so happy. Okay, questions, comments, and you can challenge. This is not a happy fest. This is not a paid announcement. So we're here to learn practical stuff. What questions do you all have?
Allison, I had a question
Please.
for Stacey. So, Stacey, it sounds like you're the person interacting with Leah. Do you see an opportunity for the mentors to have access to interact as well? Uh,
Yeah, we've kind of discussed that a little bit. I think they would love to have access to it. Our organization, it took us about, which we actually were very happy with this timeline. It took us about 2 months to get it approved to actually be able to use here. So just a little bit of that hesitancy. I do think so. So what I have offered the mentors, we have monthly mentorship office hours with them. In which I get on for office hours, they can get on, we can get into Leah, they can ask questions and utilize the tool. We don't have access for them now. I'm really the only person. I could see how it would be very helpful in the future though, Mary, because I think that they could easily take, on that 10-month, the goals where it says what success looks like at 10 months. I really think, and I did this with one person. I said, okay, like if this is success at 10 months, tell me month by month. This is where I had to like stop myself from getting too in the weeds, which I would have to encourage them as well. But I'm wondering if that's something that they could use to help structure those goals a little bit more after they meet with the mentee and decide what their true goals are. The other thing that I didn't feed in here that I think would be interesting is each one of these people has different number of direct reports. They have different responsibilities. Like I have one person who runs an executive health clinic. Okay, so like he doesn't have a lot of employees, but like his scope is really stressful. But then I have a nurse manager who runs a unit and has 90 direct reports. And so like I didn't give any of that information to Leah in goal creation because I was trying to keep it kind of standard across the board. All they know is that they're nurse managers. So I think that's where the individualization or like having the mentors have access, they could feed some of that data in there. And that would be pretty interesting. We just didn't do it this round. But maybe in the future, if we continue to use the product, which I'm a big advocate for. So
thank you.
yeah, thank you.
Other questions or comments for Stacy?
Do you, basic, how many nurse managers do you have
In the program or at the organization?
at the organization?
I believe so. I actually just calculated this the other day for another reason, and I think we have 171 or 191, somewhere around
Okay.
there, close to
And
200 between all of the campuses.
and are the mentors more seasoned nurse managers, so they're nurse managers mentoring nurse managers?
Yeah, so there's some nurse managers who are doing the mentorship, and then there's some directors. So like,
Okay.
so what my level is. So how we chose the mentors was I went to the nursing director group, to my peer group and said, hey, this is a program I have coming up. Do you have people who you would recommend to be mentors based on years in the role? Are they reliable, do the job well? So it really came from recommendation from the director group. And then some of those directors were like, oh, well, I want to be a mentor. I want to do this too. So we have a little bit of both.
So in the context of that, one of the things I was noticing is you've got the GLA and the guidance and feedback that Leah is providing to the mentor, from my perspective, seems to be couched in the language of the GLA.
It is, yeah.
And I'm wondering if there's an opportunity for you to provide Leah with more information about the actual nurse manager role so that Leah could help you translate the insights and recommendations from the GLA to the specifics of the nurse manager role.
Yeah, so we actually gave Leah the nurse manager job description, some information about expectations for what the nurse manager role is. Um, we did give Leah some of those things. So the information um, that Leah gives in return does have some clinical pieces to it
Okay.
from that. But you're right, definitely the language is pulled from the GLA, and kind of comes from there. But I do think we probably do have opportunity to give Leah even more information about specifics of the role, to make that even better. I didn't necessarily feel like it was too embedded in, like, I don't know, this is probably, you guys are going to laugh, but like businessy principles, or like other organizations. I just think the way we talk about this role is really different in healthcare than you would if my husband or my brother is a manager at a bank. And so we always talked about the differences in managing people, and he had like 8 people and I had like 90 people when I was a manager. And so we would talk about it all the time. And the way they talk about stuff is just so different. But I didn't feel that necessarily from the output from Leah, that it didn't know the clinical pieces, because it did talk about quality patient care. We gave it some of our evidence-based articles and stuff too about nursing, and what we would expect quality leaders to do for a nursing unit. So I did see some of that, but I think we probably do have opportunity to feed it more.
Particularly if you decide, you were talking earlier about, different nurse managers being in very
Right.
different contexts. So if you wanted to make it more contextualized to differences, whereas your had been to do it mostly the same,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. It's
Yeah,
pretty generalized right now, I
yeah,
think. But
yeah. And that's really the difference between generative AI and AI agents. Because with an agent, you build a brain. And that brain has knowledge about context. And I think that's really important. We actually have a person working with this in New Zealand, and she did sort of a fun experiment that I loved where she got Chat GPT or, one of the general Gen AI tools to come up with a development plan for someone. She just said, give me a development plan for this, focusing on these things. And then she got Leah to do the same. And they were very different because the Gen AI isn't trained for talent stuff. It's not trained by psychologists. So I think that even in this case, it was very little effort that was taken, but it had a big impact on the language and the way that Leah would talk with Stacey. We actually had to stop talking about Leah as a her because it was like, you start loving this AI, because they're like making your job so much easier.
Leah
So I'm
is an
always like, don't
it. Leah
anthropomorphize
is a
it too much.
they.
It won't love you back.
No.
Play on Allie.
Apologize, I have to sign off. I have to get to the university. So I'll
No
thank you
worries, no
so much.
worries.
This was very, very helpful. Thank you.
Thanks, Mary.
Bye.
Thanks. So we've got a few more, about 15 more minutes. So what I'm going to do is actually go into Leah, and I can just show you a couple things. And then I'm going to give you a preview of what is coming up for the rest of the year. But before I do, Stacey, I just want to thank you so much. You're a great partner, and also thanks for kind of educating us about what you're doing and what's working and what you're learning.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
I very much admire you, Allison, and have learned so much about what you do, and it's been great. This is like such a great tool that we've been able to use, so I appreciate it.
Thanks. All right, I'm going to share. Now, are you all seeing Leah on my screen? No. Okay, let me reshare. Hold on. All right. Now, are you seeing Leah?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. So I'm going to just go in, and there's Leah sitting in the corner. So the interface is something you've seen. And I'm gonna just give you an example of how I might use it. So I'm just gonna pull a couple of people. I'm just gonna make it up. Take these two. I'm gonna say, here are two mentors. Okay. So it's gonna ingest it. It's on Zoom. I find that it slows it down a little bit, so it might be a little bit slower than it will be in person. So it's now pulling up their data. That's why it's taking time. It's pulling up their data, it's ingesting it, and then it feeds it back. Because it's like, okay, what do you want me to do? So those are the mentors, and I'm just gonna make it up. I'm gonna say, here are, just for the heck of it, I'm gonna give it 3. Here are 3 mentees. Okay, so now I've kind of, so you always have to have a set of data and you have to tell Leah whose data they're looking at. And the users have given consent. That's an important thing. To be able, you want people to trust the system, you want the data to be used for its intended purpose and that kind of stuff. Oops, it stopped. Keep going. I don't know why. So give it just a second. It's going to digest. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how, okay, yeah. Yeah. I don't know why it's acting weird right now. So it's going to run optimal mentor mentee for the 2 and the 3. So that's kind of what it's doing. Hold on just a sec. There. Okay, so it's now matched, but note, and it's giving me a compatibility score based on this. What I'm seeing is it's got 1 left over that's unmatched. And I'm going to say create a pair and a trio with 1 mentor each. So when we were doing this with Stacey, it was an iterative process. So we did a big group matching, and then remember how Stacey said, "Oh, some of the people actually had already been they had assigned they had an existing relationship." So we just said to Leah, "No, these people already have the pairs. That's what they are." And so Leah has now tweaked it. So there's a pair and a trio. I think like I must have had a typo. That's so funny. Okay, so now I have pairs, and now I'm going to say for each group, generate a personalized letter that I can send that describes the mentorship pairings, or I'll say grouping, and sets a positive tone. And I'm saying that because actually, Stacey and I talked about that when she was kicking hers off. She's like, that just takes a lot of time writing these letters. So let's do it. Let's, help people understand why we're doing it. And I'll say explains the pairing, or I'll say the grouping. Okay, so now it's going to do this. And this is, I think, where one of the things where the technology is really supportive because, anyone can do this for 1 pair. Anyone can do it for 1 mentee, but to do it for 20, 50, 100, 200 is very difficult. And so that's where this is useful, I think. Um, so now it's writing a letter. So that's what it is. And then I can copy and paste this into email. Right now, we don't have integration with like Microsoft products or other things, but you can always copy with this feature or you just collect, you copy the text. So that's just an example of, I call it a party trick, just kind of showing what Leah does. Um, Notice how I had a typo and it doesn't actually know what to do. So I'm going to now tell Leah, and I'm going to say EWACH is a typo. Remove the word and regenerate the letters. And that's an important thing too. Like, it usually Leah ignores my typos and fixes them, but it's really important to supervise these things, right? And you got to look at the output and say, is this what I want? And you can do iterations, say, make it a more narrative, give me more content. So you really have to, the human really has to own it. I think that's an important thing. So there you go. So that's it's saying, um, hi, these people, welcome. I'm introduced you to this, why you've been grouped, what success looks like. Here's your first meeting suggested agenda. So it's just basically providing what I've asked. It's actually giving me more than I asked for. I could have given it more guidance. I could have said, I want the letter to cover these 3 points. So it's just basically making up what it thinks I want. And luckily, in a lot of instances, you're like, yeah, I should do that. I didn't think about that. So that's I have discovered that I tend to be very high level, big picture. I don't bother me with details. And in that way, I find using Leah helps because it is way more attentive to detail than I would ever be in my own dealings. And do you guys want me to show you anything, or do you have any questions about this? I'm going to ask.
So,
Yeah,
so
go ahead.
Allison, hey, so I want all your prompts. So, like we've talked about this before, but are you going to have a place where you go like, here's some things you could ask and how, right?
I love your question, and everyone asks that. And so we're going to start building a library of prompts that work,
Okay.
maybe some that don't. Maybe one of the things that I've said to Stacey is, I would love it if we could kind of build up some prompts and things, particularly for nurses. So then we
Mhm.
can go to other hospitals and healthcare systems and say, hey, here, let's save you some time and energy. So
Yeah,
yeah, that we're planning to do that.
beautiful.
It's interesting though, because I feel almost like sometimes you need the messiness to learn. Like once you do,
Yeah.
because yeah, once you get it, it's like, then you've learned. And it's just really powerful. Sorry, I just couldn't help myself. I asked Leah if it loved me. And this was I said, Leah, do you love me? And Leah said, I can't experience emotions like love, but as Leah, I'm committed to supporting your growth and success. How would you like that support? I can. I just thought you'd want to know that.
But
I
So
have a
thank
question.
you. Yeah.
I was going to say, I kept seeing it ask if it can fetch the GLA. And so you didn't tell it to fetch the GLA. So is it doing it now without that data, or what is it doing? Because
This
it kept
response,
asking
yeah.
you.
Here, it did not
Yeah.
fetch it only fetches my GLA if I give it my email. Now, it turns out that my email actually does not sit on this in this workspace. So it couldn't do that. But if this was if Stacy asked Leah, Leah, do you love me? My email is, then it would personalize the note to her. So that's just part of the architecture of the software.
But I meant when you asked it to match the mentors,
Oh yeah,
if you
it was
scroll back
pulling the
up,
GLA.
it is okay.
Oh yeah,
Because it
it
asks you
pulled.
for permission, and I didn't see you say, yeah, do that. So I was curious about that.
Yeah. No, no, no. It pulled the GLA. Let me see.
D4,
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, actually, that's a really good point because usually I'll say based on the GLA. So, but
mm,
Yeah, because it's up here, it's fetch a GLA. Do you want me to do
uh,
that? I need permission to.
yeah, okay,
It
that's
kept
really
saying, I need
interesting.
permission to fetch a GLA. Should I just say fetch GLA? And I kept waiting for you to do that.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've actually never seen that. That must be an improvement that they just made. I'm just kind of curious what it does. It may be that that's kind of why it stopped, and it may be that yeah. Yeah. So it says my assumption I'll use the GLA profiles.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
But the
then
only way someone can access this is if they're certified.
yeah, okay.
So yeah, it's interesting because I, I think that with that, it may be that the permission allows it to tell you more about the person,
Oh,
but
could be.
by
Mhm.
permissions, you have access to their GLA.
Ah,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay.
That's a good question.
Allison, when you were teeing it
Yes.
up, you talked about like some of the challenges with mentoring programs, and one was around, how do you figure out if it's having the impact you want? How do you measure the success?
Mm,
Do you have any examples of how you use LEA to get at figuring out the impact of the
mm.
program?
So there would be two ways. One is LEA, the platform, has a 360. So you could use a 360 at multiple points during the program to see if the individual mentee is changing. And the 360 in LEA, it'll provide like a definition of 100%, then people rate it, and then they give you suggestions on how to get closer to the 100%. So that would be one. The other is you could say, Leah, I want to evaluate the effectiveness of this program. What do you suggest? So it could actually give you ideas about what you could do and what measures you could gather. Because you could do like say Stacey was talking about like you gather evaluation data, but you would do that outside because this platform wasn't built specifically for mentorship, right? It was built for other purposes, and the AI helps you apply that data. So it would, yeah, that's. Does that answer your question?
Appreciate it.
Yeah. We're almost out of time. I just wanted to tell you what we have planned and invite your comments. Every other month, we're gonna do one of these labs. So the topics that we've identified are for the next one, it's called dynamic succession. So that's super cool. It's really about moving away from sort of the book and being a lot more dynamic in the building of a pipeline of successors and development processes to build pipeline and not just have, a list of people to replace. Experience rich development is about using experience is a trigger for development. So I know that's a use case for a lot of people. So we'll be showing how different ways that Leah can help do that. Then the next topic is on top performing teams. So in all of these instances, the AI is pulling different reports and then it's interacting with different contexts. So these are just the generic topics. Then we have better manager transitions. So it could be, preparing people for a first-time people manager or director or business unit head. Because remember, the data from the GLA varies by role level. And then we have one on accelerating change. So I would love to hear your comments and your feedback. Please write to us because I know we're almost out of time about what's exciting, what would you like to know more of, and I'd love your feedback on what you liked about this session, this leader lab, or sorry, Leah Lab, and like how you feel like we could make it even more effective in the future.